when you're looking at properties for potential to add to a rental portfolio for somebody, look for the properties that aren't completely destroyed. All right, because a lot of people that have those portfolios don't want to spend that extra 6 months sending people over, doing major rehab, buying all the materials, getting everything going. They kind of want that rental to be ready as quick as possible. So you can go after properties that aren't as destroyed, aren't as beat up, right? Maybe they're dated, maybe they're kind of run down a little bit, but really they're just looking for, one, they still want to get a deal. Okay, they definitely do want to get a deal, but two, they want to make sure that the numbers work from a cash flow standpoint. Now, it depends on if they're buying it with cash, obviously, or if they're buying it with some sort of financing, right? Because if there's financing, then they have to account for that with their cash flow equations, right? Most people are wanting to get that 1%, right? That 1% purchase price to what they can rent it for, all in, right? So if you've got a property that is worth, you comped it out and it's worth $150,000, right? They want to get $1,500 in rent, okay, or more. All right. Now, oftentimes in a lot of the different markets, people are adding properties that are like $100,000, and they can rent it for $1,500. It just depends on where you're at in the country. Now, if you're going after it, what you want to make sure is fixed up with the repair costs and what you're selling it at. Does it hit this 1% rule, right? This is pretty typical. All right. Now, some people that own rental portfolios are doing it for different reasons. Sometimes it's a tax shelter, so it just depends. Push your values on these for sure. But if you've got a property that's worth $150,000, you don't want the repair budget to be more than like $20,000 to fix that up. All right. So if it's $20,000 and it's worth $150,000, you're at $130,000 right now. $130,000. Okay, you still have to account for some closing costs, but you don't have agent fees. They're not going to be reselling this property. So you can knock that down to 4% for the closing costs. Mike, will you do that for me? That is $3,940, $4,200, $4,200. All right. Right?
30 times 0.4%.
Yep. $4,200, I think. So you're at 5,200. There's my math. And then minus those, Mike. 130 minus 52.
130,000 minus 5,200 is 124,800.
124,800, and they're going to want to walk in with a little bit of equity. So I would take off 10,000 on each rental deal just to make sure that they feel good about this purchase. Now, depending on the market, maybe it's really hot. You don't have to do this, so play around with this number. But I would just use this as a guide. Take that $10,000 off of this, and they're wanting to get that property for about $114,800. All right. And then there, they can put in their $20,000. They still feel like they've got good equity, and they're still hitting their cash flow numbers. That's the perfect storm. If you want rental buyers to be buying from you over and over and over, that is the perfect storm right there. 114,800. Now, obviously, if this was different, if this was a fix and flip, you'd have to be way under this.
So for rentals, back to that the repair cost matrix.
Yep.
They probably should just be looking at what? Easy remodels?
Easy remodels.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to go into those easy remodels so that it doesn't cost too much for that rental buyer to get that property on the market. Now, the only other time that I would say that they would do a big major one is if they do a BRRRR method. Right? If they do the BRRRR method, where it means they buy it, they renovate it, they rent it, and then they refinance and pull their money out of that deal. That's obviously going to negatively affect their cash flow if they're getting all their money out, but it's a good way to keep buying a lot of rental properties because you get your money out of those deals. But if it's a huge repair budget, you know, obviously you gotta get this price way lower so that it makes sense for them to BRRRR for that property, and they just have to be comfortable with the timeline, the 90 to 120 days it's going to take to fix up that property and get it rent ready, and then another 30 to 45 days it's going to take to refinance, get their money back out of that property. Okay? Does that make sense? Are we good? Yeah, great question. I think that we had that question again, and I think that that's really, really, really strong. I lean towards, here's the thing, right? So this is what they'll buy it at, so then you got to go in at whatever, 10,000 under, 20,000 under, depends on where you want to go. But typically with the rental buyers, your fees are going to be lower. And that's why I go heavy on going after the worst properties, because the deals are the biggest, typically. Not always, but typically they're the biggest if it needs a lot of love and if it has potential equity, right? If they're destroyed, the equity is what you think it is. The equity is the price that you put it at. But what's the potential? That's what ARV is. ARV is the potential equity in the property once it is fixed up. Right, and fixed up appropriately. You can't just go in and bulldoze every door and make it a 1-bedroom, 1-bath and get the same price as a typical house, right? So going in and making it a digestible flip, making it digestible is really important. Don't get into anything wacky. If you like this video, smash that subscribe button, because we put out new videos every single day. And if you have a question that you want me to answer personally, join us live every Wednesday.